Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us here on KREM 2 News at 5. I'm Whitney Ward. Mark is off tonight. We begin tonight with new details on a shooting out in Mead that killed one man and injured another over the weekend. We have now learned the two men were suspected of trespassing when they were shot by a security guard. KREM 2's Shannon Mowdy has been working all day to get additional information about what led up to this incident. So, Shannon, what have you learned so far today?
Well, tonight we know that the Spokane County Sheriff's Office is still investigating the shooting, but what we have learned from the Sheriff's Office is that witnesses and evidence at this point to a physical fight between two suspected trespassers and a security guard, which may have led up to those shots being fired. The Spokane County Sheriff's Office says the incident started Saturday around 11:15 a.m. when security contacted two men about trespassing on federal land near Bonneville Power. The Sheriff's Office reports through witnesses and evidence gathered so far, things turned into a verbal, then a physical fight. Witnesses reported the two men being aggressive or fighting the security guard. He shot, killing one of the men, injuring the other. It still leaves a lot of unknowns for Mika Chapman, who says he knew the man who died.
It kind of feels like I lost a brother.
KREM 2 News is not naming either victim. That information hasn't been confirmed by law enforcement. Chapman owns this auto repair shop. A chance call responding to an ad connected the two men.
And I needed a good solid transmission builder. I kept going to customers that needed work done, and we just immediately, I think I was on the phone with him for probably a good 2 hours. You know, we're just exchanging stories.
A business partnership that soon turned to friendship.
His kids were older than mine, and I always kind of called him and asked him for stories about, hey, what would you do here? And he'd be like, why don't you do this? And it worked.
Now Chapman's left wondering what exactly led up to his friend's death.
There's a lot of us that want answers, you know, and accountability. And if there was wrongdoing, justice needs to be going for him.
Again, the Spokane County Sheriff's Office is still investigating. We have also learned tonight the second man who was shot and injured is still in the hospital, but we've been unable to confirm his condition. Shannon Mowdy, KREM 2 News.
All right, Shannon, thank you very much. The Spokane County Medical Examiner has now identified the man killed in a shooting in northeast Spokane early last month. 32-year-old Devin Rowden died from a gunshot wound to the chest. His death has now been ruled as a homicide. Spokane police arrested a man suspected in that death. 19-year-old Abraham Valderez is accused of killing Rowden and injuring another person. He is currently being held in the Spokane County Jail on a $1 million bond. A memorial garden for 4 U of I students murdered almost a year ago is now one step closer to reality. The university is moving forward with plans to create a garden and memorial for the 4 students, as well as for other enrolled students who have passed away. KREM 2's Kyle Simchuk went to Moscow and brings us more tonight.
There have been memorials, vigils, and funerals, all temporary places to grieve Ethan Chapin, Xana Kernodle, Madison Mogan, and Kaylee Consalves. Since their murders last fall, the University of Idaho has been working with students to create a permanent place to honor their lives and other enrolled students who died far too young.
We're hoping to identify space on campus to build a memorial garden and a healing space for students, employees and community members where we can come together and grieve for the loss of our lost vandals.
Dean of Students Dr. Blaine Eccles says that process started shortly after the murders. A committee of students and university staff have been meeting weekly.
We have about 150 students and some community members, some employees that are gathering today to brainstorm around what could the healing garden look like. What are some elements they would like to see?
The garden will be dedicated to all enrolled students who never lived to see graduation day.
We do lose students every year. Since January, we've lost 6 students that were currently enrolled. But we also know what happened last November was a very significant tragedy for our campus, as well as in our entire community. So within the garden itself, we'll have a specific memorial honoring the memory and legacy of the 4 students we lost in November. But the entire healing garden is all about all the vandals that we lose over the years.
The project is supported by donors. To date, they've raised more than $200,000. The university's College of Art and Architecture will also be involved with the design process. The committee is still a ways out from deciding where the garden will be.
We were able to identify a couple places on campus that we thought would make a good spot for a garden. There were some considerations that went into that from the committee, including an area that has some sort of seclusion, privacy, quietness. We don't want it right in the heart of campus. This is a place to go and reflect.
The university tells us at this point there are no plans for a memorial on King Road, but the house will be torn down. The university has not set a date, saying those discussions will continue next semester. Kyle Simchuk, KREM 2 News.
All right, time to turn our attention to weather. A cool start to the week. Some parts of the region seeing some rain today, but we are getting ready for quite the warm up this week. Let's send it over now to Cody Proctor for what we need to know.
Well, as we head into the rest of this week, you're right, Whitney. We're expected to see a warm up for us and should be really nice. It's kind of the flip side of what we experienced last week, where it was super rainy, very chilly. Now we could be seeing those temperatures start to go up instead, but we have to get through today. Right now, we just got in our almanac. We reached a high of 64 degrees. It's a little bit below our seasonal average of about 66, certainly nowhere near that record that was set back in 1935. And you know, I'm okay with that. Sunset tonight, by the way, we're just losing more and more daylight, 6:28 this evening. But across the region, we're seeing some cloudy conditions. Right now over at the Spokane airport, we're at 63 degrees right now. Winds coming out the southwest at 11 miles per hour. And other places mostly tracking into those 60s for us. 68 degrees right now for you, Moses Lake, 61 in Sandpoint. Our weather pattern showing what we could be seeing over the next few days. We have been seeing quite a bit of activity across the northwest, bringing in those rain showers. We might be seeing that move in, particularly into southeast Washington and into parts of the Idaho Panhandle. But we're watching this ridge of high pressure following behind it. But there's where we're tracking some of that current rain conditions right now. You can see some of it really close to Lewiston. Next 12 hours look to be into the low 50s for tomorrow morning, but you can see by the time we get to Thursday, we might be up into the upper 60s. Weekend could actually get us even warmer.
All right, Cody, thank you very much. And happening here in just about 1 hour, the Spokane City Council is expected to appoint 2 people to the Scraps Advisory Board after more than a dozen dogs were put down in just 1 day. At last week's meeting, Council passed an emergency ordinance regarding when animals can be euthanized. The ordinance states that euthanasia is only allowed when a veterinarian determines that an animal is severely sick or suffering. The code also says Scraps cannot euthanize animals just because of shelter capacity. And that's important because the city contracts with Scraps, so it's going to have to follow those rules. But those rules will only apply to dogs that are impounded within city limits.